let's look at a key case in criminal law for the area of causation. This case is R and Pagett, and it was heard in 1983. In this case, the defendant had left his wife and formed a relationship with a 16-year-old girl, Gail Kinchen, who was the victim. She fell pregnant with the defendant's child, and when she was 6 months pregnant, left him due to a number of domestic problems and returned to her family home. The defendant took the victim hostage and drove her to his flat, being pursued by the police. Following a lengthy negotiation between the defendant and the police, the defendant opened the door to his flat and held the victim in front of himself, using her as a shield between him and the police. This all took place in a dimly lit hallway where he shot at the police officers who returned fire, and with the victim being in front of the defendant and directly in line of the police's gunshots, she was killed, whereas the defendant was just harmed. The defendant was prosecuted for the manslaughter of the victim, being the basis of his actions in shooting at the police and using her as a shield were a cause of her death. This was irrelevant to the fact that it was actually the police who fired the shots that actually killed her. It was seen that the overriding facts which caused her death was that the defendant had been using her as a human shield between him and the police's gunfire. In this case, the defendant was found guilty of causing the manslaughter of Gail Kinchen. This case can be used to show causation and looking at third-party intervention. It's long been accepted in law that the presence of an intervening act is not enough to break the chain of causation. That act must be free, deliberate, informed and independent of the acts of the accused, so it should be regarded as the cause of the victim's death due to the exclusion of the act of the accused. In this instance, the police officer's actions were just performing their lawful duty in responding to the criminal actions of the defendant, and therefore they were not free or independent. In this case, it was really Pagett who had caused the death of his girlfriend, but for using her as a shield in a shootout with the police, she would not have died, and therefore he was held responsible for her death. This is called the factual causation or but-for test, which you can cite in your exam answers. This shows that a defendant will only be liable if the consequences would not have happened but for their actions. So in this instance, but for Pagett using his girlfriend as a pregnant shield, she would not have died. If the result would have happened anyway, then they wouldn't be liable for the offence.